Right, within Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, the theme of fate is prominent from dialogue. The audience I don't want to say set up. What can I say? Like I want to say the audience is set up for.
Everyone we wrote it.
Okay.
Portray.
Introduced. So the audience are introduced immediately to the tragedy of the main protagonists. In a what's it called? Not a prologue. In a book, you get like a, what's it called in the beginning? Like an introduction, but what's it called? You're introduced immediately to the tragedy of the main protagonists, and their tragic endings. Hang on, let me just read that out. Within Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, the theme of fate is prominent from the opening prologue. The audience are introduced immediately to the tragedy of the main protagonists and their tragic endings through the narrative. Okay, that'll do. So, our first paragraph then has to be about the prologue. Give me another word for within. Not within the. I don't want to say within the prologue because I've just said within Shakespeare. So give me another discourse marker.
Embedded in.
Embedded in. And remember what? So based on those annotations we made on the prologue, what type of poem is it? The sonnet form. Reveals a number of events that are to happen later in the play. Early on, the lyrics within the poem show how a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. Which indicates how the two characters. What does that show us about the characters, that particular line? And if you can, give me a particular word.
Just life, and there's like two people showing up, but on the narrative's saying it should be lives, not life. They're not.
So they're presented as one?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. How the two characters are so connected, they become one life. And this also can be seen in how they die when they take their the idea that they both take their lives or life. It's a bit convoluted at the minute, I'll sort it out in a second. Reinforces how strong their love for each other must have been, as suicide was a mortal sin in Elizabethan times. I'm just going to branch off a second. When the audience are then shown the rest of the play, it becomes difficult to understand such emotions as their love. What do you think I'm going to say? What is it about this? So we've said about here their love being like so deep that they had to commit suicide, which was a mortal sin back in Elizabethan times. But if I'm branching off to somewhere else, when the audience are then shown the rest of the play, it becomes difficult to understand such emotions. Okay, good. Such emotions as their love was very rapid and only developed over 3 days. So the whole of their encounter right up to their death, all of that is 3 days, and that's it. That's the whole of that, all of what goes on. So now what I want to do is get in a quotation from Romeo, perhaps, about his love so what scene can we link to in terms of his love for Rosaline? Maybe go to the balcony scene and look at how they discuss. Let's use that. So if you look in your booklets, if you look in your plays, and you look at the balcony scene, so Act 2, hang on, no. Yeah, Act 2, Scene 2. It's the balcony scene. But, no, hang on, so go to the scene before, Act 1, Scene 5, because then we can talk about another sonnet and the fact that their sonnet begins when they their first dialogue starts. So then you've got some form in there. So, I'm going to start a new paragraph, but I haven't finished my point. It's just that I'm moving on to talk about another sonnet, so I will need to change paragraphs. So just make sure your paragraph's correct. So within... hang on a second. So it's difficult to understand such much. The love was very rapid and only developed over 3 days. No, I'm not going to start another paragraph. Where the two lovers first meet, Act 1, Scene 5. It is, another sonnet begins. Within the discourse, okay? It almost feels as though the two characters are entwined. And their communication is parallel. The A-B rhyme and also okay, let's just sort this out. Where the two lovers first meet, Act 1, Scene 5, another sonnet begins within their discourse. It almost feels as though the characters are entwined and meant to meet, as their communication is paralleled by this sonnet form. The A-B rhyme also alludes to how their love is mirrored by each other. They feel as strongly about each other. Making it seem as though they were fated to meet. Okay, I'm going to talk about Shakespeare here. Shakespeare used this to highlight a Petrarchan love between the two characters. Even within minutes of meeting each other. Okay, so now what I want to talk about is the prologue. I need to go back to that original point that the prologue kind of sets us up out for those tragic conventions. So it's almost in this scene that he's building on those tragic conventions by having the characters so emotionally connected. And that was Shakespeare's purpose. Why did he do that? Why does he want the audience to see this Petrarchan love? What was his purpose? What was the purpose of including the Petrarchan sonnet form or the Petrarchan love? When we say about Romeo's hyperbolized ideas of love, what do we know about that? Okay, puts them on a pedestal. Was it love? No. So we need to talk about that really, don't we? So, as the characters, I'm going to say protagonists again. Central character. Were so young. Perhaps Shakespeare is mocking the idea, the confusion, the confusing feelings. I'll wait for you to catch up a sec. Hang on, no, I won't. I'll get my puzzle. Feelings young people might have experienced. Surrounding lust rather than true love. This can also be reinforced when we see Romeo in a depressed and mournful state. Okay, so in Act 1, Scene 1, okay, Romeo states that his griefs of mine own lie heavy in my breast, which shows how his love for Rosaline goes unrequited. Okay. Have we finished with this page? Let's just go, once we've done this, I want to just go back through and look at the assessment objectives and see whether there's something that we perhaps have missed out, which I think we have. And I'll show you. You'll see in a second. Mournful. Okay, we're nearly there.
Yes. Is this the question more?
Mournful. Mournful.
That's what Romeo states.
Yeah. I've got something right in. I always tried at school to have neat writing, but I'm just not that kind of person. You have that problem, Antonio? Having neat handwriting. having scruffy handwriting? It's because you wrote fast. And I wrote fast, so it goes all scruffy. Right, people finished with that? Where are you? Because he's trying to do all sorts of things. Heavy. Don't forget we're recording. Can't really hear you guys anyway. Right, can we go? Can we go? Right, so Harvey, where are you? Finished, Bradley? Ethan, you're not doodling on that, are you? Is that an old? Right, so if you've got a different colour pen, use it, because it's worth marking the AOs as we go through. Right. If not, just go through with your normal colour, or if someone's got a different colour next to you, use that. Right, so the question is, what is the role of fate within Romeo and Juliet? Within Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, the theme of fate is prominent from the opening prologue. The audience are introduced immediately to the tragedy of the main protagonists and their tragic endings through the narrative. You'd get recognised for the task, addressing the task, and you'd also get recognised for using protagonists. Terminology. So, presented in the prologue, the sonnet form reveals a number of events that are to happen later in the play. Early on, the lyrics within the poem show how a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, which indicates how the two characters are so connected they become one life. Okay, so you've got you're starting to develop that and explain. You've put a quotation, so you get level 2 there. So you've gone up from 1 to 2. And this can also be seen in how they die when they take their life. The idea that both take their lives reinforces how strong their love for each other must have been, as suicide was a mortal sin in Elizabethan times. AO3, level 2. When the audience are then shown the rest of the play, it becomes difficult to understand such emotions, as their love was very rapid and only developed over 3 days. AO3, because you've linked to the rest of the play, you'd be climbing up to a level 3 there, or perhaps even level 4, because it's starting to become clear. Where the two lovers first meet, Act 1, Scene 5, another sonnet begins within their discourse. AO2, AO2. It almost feels as though the characters are entwined and meant to meet, as their communication is paralleled by the sonnet form. Right, here's what we didn't do. We need to make sure we've got the quotation there. So here I'd put at the end of the lines the words hand, kiss, this, stand, kiss, are mirrored by Juliet's this and kiss. when she speaks. Okay? So, in that sonnet form, if you have a look at it, you've got Romeo starts with hand, it says hand, this, stand, kiss. So it's an A-B, and then she mirrors the this and kiss in her response to that. So it shows that they're paralleled in their speech because of the rhyme scheme. So the A-B rhyme there, so it's A-B-C-B, A-B-C-B rhyme. This is where we need to make sure that if we're going to include something like this in form, that you absolutely know what you're talking about in that. So it might mean that you go back over and you add this stuff. That's the importance of when you read back through and you think, right, okay, I can up-level that. I'm not just going to settle, I can up-level it. So do an asterisk. Don't do it in the margin, but do it later on another page. If there's something that you can add, then add it. Okay? So it's about including evidence. With that evidence, you're almost pushing it for like judicious evidence there. So you're pushing up to sort of level 5, level 6.
What would you actually say in the one?
At the end of the lines, the words hand, this, stand, kiss are mirrored by Juliet's this and kiss. The A-B-C-B rhyme, so AO2 there, because you're talking about form now, which is a really sophisticated thing, you're perhaps going to push into level 5. Also, you've got to make sure that that's clear though. Also alludes to how their love is mirrored by each other. They feel as strongly about each other, making it seem as though they were fated to meet. So you're directly linking that to the question. Shakespeare used this to highlight a Petrarchan love, AO2/3, between the two characters, even within minutes of meeting each other. As the protagonists were so young, perhaps Shakespeare, AO2, is making the confusing feelings young people might have experienced. AO3. So again, you're pushing up 4, 5 there for AO2 and AO3. Yeah.
You know how you get like a mark for using like alternatively or furthermore?
You don't necessarily get marked for that. That's a strategy that we use for students who forget to do that. So just add in those layers. You would if like later on if you said alternatively this can be seen as this. It's about developing a response.
Yeah, could you put it? You know where it says the characters are so young, Shakespeare. Perhaps could you put alternatively at the start of that?
Yeah. If you, because I think for you like to signpost where you've done that so that you can see you've done it. So I think absolutely, Harvey, if you want to put alternatively, that's fine. But some people, once they get into the swing, they don't need to do that anymore. But if you need to signpost where your alternative or where your next layer is, absolutely put it in there. Okay? Surrounding lust rather than true love. This can also be reinforced when we see Romeo in a depressed and mournful state of mind in Act 1, Scene 1. Again, the context, in the wider context of things, so the whole play, we've now looking at another scene. Do you want to look at different scenes here? So, I push that up again, level 4, 5, so we're almost between the two. Romeo states that his griefs of mine own lie heavy on my breast, which shows his love for Rosaline goes unrequited. Right, hang on. Okay. I'm still not finished because I now need to zoom into this, and I need to link it to fate as well. We always get to this point, don't we, where we've kind of stop and then we don't finish, but I absolutely think we'll finish this on Monday. We'll get that second page complete. We'll tie it all together and link it back
Oh, it's on here on the 12
the whole day.
No, just for a lesson.
Okay, so this lesson. Well, you're going to miss that then, aren't you? So if I record it, you'll have to catch up at home.
Wait.